While the NBA season might appear to be in tatters, the players, coaches, and especially us here at CGS ESPN Second Take still have hopes for a finished season. For our next segment, your host will give you their take on a potential dark horse, a team that will come out of nowhere to take home the NBA championship.
Okay, well, I'll start right off for us here, Dylan. If you're joining us here for our last episode, you heard me talk a lot about the Pacers in regards to one of their potential signings of Aaron Baines. Well, if you'll remember that discussion, I talked a lot about the strengths of the Pacers, and it's many of those same strengths that will put the Pacers in a prime position to be an NBA champion if the season does resume. So let's review some of those reasons. Number one, the Pacers are sort of in a rebuilding stage. One of their star players, Victor Oladipo, who really brought them close to an NBA championship victory in 2018, is now back. He had a few games to get back into shape, and he's now using his time off during this hiatus to get completely back in shape, both mentally and physically. And he said publicly that he's ready to take the league by storm when he comes back. And that bodes really well for the Pacers because he can dominate a series. The second reason why the Pacers are well positioned to dominate the championships are because of the format of the new championships. The format is still very much up in the air, but the NBA League of Governors is considering a format that would do away with the traditional 7-game series and just play a 1-game winners take all format in the middle 2 rounds of the playoffs. And that bodes well for a team like the Pacers, who are more likely to win it all in 1 or 2 games and carry that momentum forward than have to beat a team like the Bucks in 7 games. So that's another reason why the Pacers are well positioned to do well. On the topic, however, back to my first topic about rebuilding, the Pacers also have a number of other players who are now just getting over injuries. And so looking at, for example, 538's model tracking the current roster versus the optimum roster, the Pacers throughout the entire season, 2019-2020 season, have been playing below their optimal levels because of injuries. And so, again, this time off will allow them to not be together, but to get physically fit during their time off. Finally, the Pacers are a really well-rounded team this year. Maybe they don't have 1 or 2 stars, although, again, Oladipo could be a star for them, but they also have really great playmakers across the board, from Sabonis to Brogdon to Warren, even Turner Miles, or whatever his name is. They have a lot of players that can put points on the board, a lot of great outside shooters, and also ability to penetrate inside the paint. And so all that bodes really well for them. And the combination of players getting into form, their well-rounded team, and the fact that they're positioned to do well based off this new playoff format, all that puts them in a great position going into the potential playoff season.
The Pacers could be a good dark horse contender, but I think if you look at the Celtics, they're much more convincing of a dark horse contender. While they may not fit the build as a dark horse, as they're the 3rd seed in the East right now, I still think people are overlooking them because people still see the Bucks as the overwhelming favorites to represent the Eastern Conference. To see why they should be a favorite, you have to look at the other teams in the East. None of them 1 through 8 are playoff proven. The Bucks' 2 series victories last year were against Detroit, who haven't won a playoff game since 2008, and the Celtics last year, who had well-documented locker issues. The Raptors lost a top 5 player in Kawhi Leonard, as well as one of their best weapons in Danny Green. This Heat team has yet to be seen in the postseason, and the Pacers haven't had much playoff success with Oladipo, given that he was injured last year. The 76ers are a total mess, and the Nets don't have Kevin Durant or Kyrie Irving yet. The Celtics have fixed their locker room problems by shipping out Kyrie, and outside of the Bucks, have arguably the best roster in the Eastern Conference. Their starting lineup is absolutely loaded with talent, with Kemba Walker and Jaylen Brown, a Gordon Hayward who's finally getting his legs back under him after that horrific injury a couple years ago, Jason Tatum, who is looking like someday he could possibly be the best player in the NBA, and Daniel Tice. They've also got Enes Kanter, who can come off the bench and give you 8 and 8, as well as defensive specialist Marcus Smart. And they also have the NBA legend himself, Taco Fall. 7-6 legend. And that's my take.
Okay, obviously I don't agree with the aspersions you were casting on the Pacers. Oladipo is going to be the next big star, but people love to dream, people love to have big aspirations, and that's just what you're doing tonight. So I respect that.
Nice.
Yeah. All right. I think I'll take the reins from you guys, and I think you guys mentioned the third and fifth teams in the East. I'm just gonna split right in between you guys and go for the fourth team. My
All right.
dark horse team is the Miami Heat, and I'll give you guys. Justin said they're not playoff proven, but I'll start off. I'll just say they're very well proven against the top teams in the East. They've gone. Granted, they haven't played all of their games. They have gone 2-0 against the Bucks, 2-0 against the Raptors, 2-0 against the Pacers, 3-1 against the 76ers and Magic, and 2-1 against the Nets. Now, the only team that they haven't beaten was the Celtics, but they still had 2 games left against them. Now, they throughout the course of the season, they have 5 losses total at home, and 2 of those were against LA teams. The Lakers and Clippers were obviously favorites to win the championship. And so this Heat team, this is a new Heat team compared to last year. They gained Jimmy Butler and they lost Hassan Whiteside, even though I would argue that losing Hassan Whiteside was really a gain in the long run for them. I think he brought a negative culture to their team. I think he was kind of toxic to their coach. And I think overall losing him and adding Jimmy Butler was a big plus for them. And I think most importantly, they have an identity. Eric Spoelstra can play Kelly Olynyk and Bam Adebayo without worrying about Hassan Whiteside. They have 2 new flashy and, possible contenders for Rookie of the Year and Tyler Hero and Kendrick Nunn. Tyler Hero, I've watched his highlights since high school. He is a baller. He was one of the best players in the country in college at Kentucky, and I think him and Kendrick Nunn they have proved that they can hang around with the big guys in the NBA. And I think the atmosphere that while they're the 4th seed, they may only have one home advantage during the playoffs. I think the atmosphere in Miami is insane. I think that their special jerseys, the Miami Vice jerseys, kind of prove the new identity that Miami has. The bright blue and pink. I think that really shows that this is a new team. This is a flashy team, and I think they've proved themselves against the competition in the East. And unlike the Pacers, who Britt mentioned, they in the new format where they would only have to play one game, they can steal a few from the top teams. The Heat have proved themselves against the teams in the East. They're 2-0 against the top 2 teams right now, and I think that they could really, if they hit a new gear and they really step it up in the playoffs, I think that they could go all the way.
Sorry if you heard me typing there, Dylan. I was trying to cover up the sound of you making some wild claims about Kendrick Nunn being ready for the playoffs. He won't stand a chance. He'll crack at the first sign of any pressure. That's my prediction.
Wow.
I would like to contend that I think the playoffs are certainly different than regular season basketball. The refs are known to swallow their whistles more, and the fact is that the Miami Heat shoot the 4th most free throws per game in the NBA, and that's going to drop significantly when the playoffs start. You kind of have to ask yourselves if Jimmy Butler is good enough to lead a team by him. Not by himself. He has some good help, but as the best player, is he able to lead his team past other teams that are more proven, like the Bucks and the Celtics? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I guess you raise a good point with free throws, but I think free throws, the Bucks shoot 25 free throws a game, and I think even if the refs swallow their whistles, that means maybe 5 or 10 less calls per game. That's like maybe 5 to 10 less free throws, and I think that really isn't a deciding factor in the games in the long run, because I think even if 2 free throws won't be taken early on, those points can still be scored later on in the game. And I think that Overall, this team can definitely step up in a playoff atmosphere and really take on even playoff-proven teams like the Bucks or the Raptors.
Well, fellas, it sounds like what both teams need, but especially Miami, is maybe some automatic reviews for all plays. Wouldn't that really help the Miami team?
It's an excellent.
I thought you were
Always looking to score political points here.
That's an excellent point, Britt.
Yep.
Thank you, sir. Okay, well, let's move on.
Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle.